Roy Bennett counted his last 12 credits for the third time, hoping the number would somehow change. It didn't. The coin sat in his callous palm, barely enough for a meal and definitely not enough for next week's docking fees. Station Greymore had chewed through his savings faster than he expected, and the promised mining job had fallen through when the foreman decided humans were too expensive compared to the cheaper labor flooding in from the outer colonies. The cantina smelled like recycled air and desperation. Roy sat in his usual corner booth, nursing a drink he'd made last 2 hours. Around him, dozens of species minded their own business. A group of insectoid traders clicked at each other near the bar. Some reptilian workers hunched over their meals, scales dulled by long shifts. Nobody made eye contact. That's how it worked on stations like this. You kept your head down, did your work, and didn't ask questions. Something moved in the shadows across from him. Roy's eyes adjusted and he saw her. A dragon, larger than most species but thin, her scales lacking the shine they should have. 3 smaller forms pressed against her sides, younglings by the look of them. The smallest one couldn't have been more than a few cycles old. Their eyes were hollow, sunken in ways that made Roy's chest tight. The dragon mother watched him for several minutes. Roy pretended not to notice, but he could feel her gaze measuring him, calculating something. Finally, she stood. Her movements were slow, careful, like someone trying not to spook a wild animal. She crossed the cantina floor and stopped at his table. Human. Her voice was barely a whisper, rough like she hadn't used it much lately. Please. Roy looked up at her. Up close, he could see how her scales hung loose in places. Malnutrition. He'd seen it before on his home colony during the bad years. We haven't eaten in days, she said. The words came out like broken glass, sharp with shame and desperation. My younglings. Please. Around them, other patrons glanced over. A few sneered. Most looked away quickly, not wanting to get involved. Roy noticed a well-fed merchant deliberately turn his back. This wasn't unusual. Dragons had a reputation on these stations. Low class. Disposable. The kind of workers who got paid last and fired first. Roy didn't think. He just raised his hand and flagged down the server. A bored-looking humanoid who'd been ignoring most customers all night. Yeah, the server said. For meals. Whatever's hot. Bring extra protein. Roy pushed half his remaining credits across the table. The server looked at the dragon family, then at Roy. You sure about this? Did I stutter? The server shrugged and walked away. The dragon mother stared at Roy like he'd grown a second head. Her younglings peered around her legs, eyes wide. I can't pay you back, she said quietly. Didn't ask you to. Roy gestured to the booth. Sit down before you fall down. She hesitated, pride and hunger warring in her expression. Hunger won. She slid into the booth, and the younglings scrambled up beside her. The smallest one, barely bigger than a human child, crawled into her lap. I'm Roy. Sirith. She wrapped her arms around her younglings protectively. This is Pip, Kessa, and Forge. The middle one, Kessa, watched Roy with curious eyes. Are you really going to feed us? Food's coming. What? Pip, the eldest, asked. Dragons aren't worth much here. Everyone says so. That stung Roy more than it should have. Everyone's wrong about a lot of things. The food arrived faster than expected. For plates of something that looked like stew, thick with vegetables and chunks of synthetic protein. It wasn't fancy, but it was hot and filling. The younglings stared at it like they'd seen a miracle. Go on, Sirith said softly. They ate like they were dying, which they probably were. Roy had to look away for a moment, swallowing against the tightness in his throat. Sirith ate slower, more controlled, but her hands shook as she lifted the spoon. Station security drifted by their table. One of them, a stocky humanoid with mean eyes, paused. Problem here. No problem, Roy said evenly. Dragons supposed to stay in their sector. The security officer tapped his baton against his palm. Housing codes. They're eating, not moving in. Better not be. The officer looked at Sirith with open contempt. Your kind brings down property values. Sirith kept her eyes on her plate, shoulders hunched. The younglings stopped eating, fear replacing hunger on their faces. Roy met the officer's gaze steadily. We done here? The officer sneered but moved on. After he left, Roy noticed Sirith's hands were trembling worse than before. What happened? He asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. The younglings finished their food and leaned against her, exhaustion taking over now that their bellies were full. Finally, Sirith spoke. My mate died. Mining accident 3 cycles ago. The company took our quarters. Standard practice for non-essential species. Her voice was flat, empty. We've been sleeping in maintenance tunnels. I can't find work. Nobody hires dragon widows with younglings. Other dragons won't help. We keep to ourselves here. Survival means not standing out. She looked at him directly for the first time. Why are you different? Roy thought about his home colony, about neighbors helping each other through droughts and crop failures, about his mother feeding every hungry kid in their sector, regardless of species, about the values that got beaten into him before the colony fell apart. Where I'm from, we had a saying, you don't let folks starve. Doesn't matter what they look like or where they're from. You just don't. That's not how the galaxy works. Maybe it should be. Little Forge had fallen asleep in Sirith's arms. Kessa's eyes were drooping. Only Pip remained alert, watching Roy with an expression too old for such a young face. You have somewhere to go tonight? Roy asked. Sirith shook her head slowly. Roy did the math in his head. His quarters were tiny, meant for one person. But they had walls and a door that locked. They had heat and running water. They were safe. Come on then. He stood up. What? You're not sleeping in tunnels. Not tonight. Roy started walking toward the exit. Sirith caught up to him, shifting Forge at her arms. You don't even know us. Know enough. You need help. I got a floor you can sleep on. He glanced back at her. Unless you'd rather take your chances with the tunnels. She didn't answer, but she followed him. The younglings trailed behind, too tired to question what was happening. As they left the cantina, Roy heard muttering from other patrons. Let them talk. He learned a long time ago that doing the right thing rarely made you popular. Outside in the corridor, Sirith stopped him with a hand on his arm. Why would you do this? Help us. Roy looked at her younglings, at their thin frames and scared eyes. He thought about all the times someone had helped him when he had nothing. All the kindness that had kept him alive when he wanted to give up. Because someone's got to, he said simply. Might as well be me. Sirith woke before dawn, a habit from years of early mining shifts. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the cramped human quarters, heard her younglings breathing softly on the sleeping platform, and remembered. The human named Roy lay curled on the floor near the door, using his jacket as a pillow. She stood quietly, careful not to wake anyone. The quarters were a mess. Not dirty, just neglected. Tools scattered on the counter, a broken air filter hanging loose, dust in corners that hadn't been cleaned in months. Roy lived like someone who'd stopped caring about small things. She understood that feeling, but he'd given them his bed, given them safety when no one else would. Sirith found Roy's repair kit and got to work. The air filter was an easy fix, just a loose connection. She cleaned methodically, organizing his tools, wiping down surfaces. Dragon claws were good for reaching tight spaces. By the time pale artificial light filled the quarters, she'd transformed the place. Roy stirred, groaning as he sat up. His back clearly hurt from sleeping on the floor. He looked around, confused. What did you do? I pay my debts. Sirith kept her voice neutral. Pride demanded she give something back. Didn't ask you to clean. Nevertheless, she gestured to the air filter. It works properly now. Your ventilation was running at 60% efficiency. Roy stood, testing the air. He smiled slightly. Thanks. The younglings woke hungry, as always. Roy split his rations without being asked, teaching them some human blessing song from his childhood. The words made no sense to Sirith, but Pip and Kessa hummed along. Even little Forge tried to clap his small claws in rhythm. After breakfast, Roy took Sirith to the station's job boards. Her hope died quickly. Most postings had clear restrictions. No dragons, no jonglins, no non-standard species. The few that accepted dragons offered wages below survival level .1. Hiring manager, a smug Centaurian, actually laughed when Sirith inquired about an engineering position. Dragons are fine for hauling cargo, but technical work? You're joking. Roy stepped forward, his voice dangerously quiet. She just repair my air filtration system by sight. What are your qualifications? The manager's face hardened. Get out. Both of you. Outside, Roy kicked the wall. This station's full of idiots. It's the same everywhere. Sirith tried to keep the bitterness from her voice. My mate and I learned that years ago. There's got to be something. Roy paced, thinking. Then he stopped. Wait. He said you can, well, all dragons can. Fire breath. And you know ship systems? I worked transport maintenance before the younglings came. She didn't mention how much she'd loved that work, how good she'd been at it. Roy grinned. I know someone. Old friend who runs freight. Vid Andas. He owes me from way back. They found Will at the docking bay, supervising cargo loads. He was a weathered human with sharp eyes and no-nonsense attitude. When he saw Roy, he smiled, but the smile faded when he noticed Sirith. Roy, what brings you down here? Need a favor, Will? Course you do. Will crossed his arms. What kind? Job for Sirith here. She's qualified for technical work. Engineering, maintenance, welding. Will looked skeptical. She's a dragon. So, I've never hired a dragon for technical positions. Don't know if the crew would accept it. You've seen her work? Roy challenged. No, but then give her a trial. 1 week. She proves herself or walks away. Will studied Sirith for a long moment. She met his gaze steadily, refusing to look down. Finally, he sighed. 1 week. Trial basis. Prove you're worth the wage. I will, Sirith promised. That evening, back in Roy's quarters, something changed. The younglings played a human card game Roy taught them, their laughter filling the small space. Sirith watched Roy interact with her children. He was patient with Forge, challenged Pip, encouraged Kessa. Natural. You're good with them, she said quietly. Roy shrugged, uncomfortable. Just keeping them busy. My mate used to play games with them too. Before. Sirith's voice caught. We had dreams. Saving enough to buy passage to the dragon homeworlds. Real schools, real opportunities. But then he died and everything fell apart. What was his name? Gareth. Saying it hurt. He always said dragons deserved better than the scraps other species left behind. He wanted our younglings to grow up proud. Roy dealt another round of cards. Tell me about your family. Before. So Sirith did. She talked about meeting Gareth, about their decision to work the frontier stations for better pay, about Pip's birth and how terrified they'd been as first-time parents, about Kessa's singing voice and Forge's constant questions, about the day security came to tell her about the mining accident. Roy listened without interrupting. When she finished, he shared his own story. A colony world called Preston's Hope. Farming community where everyone helped everyone. His family lost to a systems failure when he was 20. Years of drifting from station to station, never settling, never connecting. Guess we're both pretty lost, Sirith said. Maybe. Roy looked at the younglings, now falling asleep over their cards. Or maybe we just found something. The next morning, Sirith started her trial with Willanders. Roy took the younglings to the station's public areas, showing them things they'd never seen. Educational displays. Observation decks. Pip asked 1,000 questions about everything. Kessa hummed constantly. Forge held Roy's hand the entire time. When they returned to quarters that afternoon, Roy found 3 human station workers waiting by his door. Their faces were hostile. Bennett, heard you're keeping dragons in human quarters. So, Roy positioned himself between the men and the younglings. Against housing codes, dragons got their own sector. Their sector got seized when her mate died. Where exactly should they go? Not our problem. Not yours either. The leader stepped closer. You're making trouble, Bennett. People are talking. Let them talk. This is a warning. Get rid of the dragons or face consequences. After they left, Pip looked up at Roy with worried eyes. We're causing you problems. No, Roy said firmly. Idiots are causing problems. There's a difference. That night, while the younglings slept, Sirith confronted Roy. You should let us go. We'll manage somehow. Where will you go? I don't know, but I won't let you lose everything because of us. Roy met her eyes. You ever think maybe I got nothing to lose? Maybe helping you is the first thing I've done in years that actually means something. Roy, listen. Your trial goes well. You'll have income. We'll figure out the housing situation. Together. He said the last word with emphasis. Why do you care so much? Roy was quiet for a moment. My mom used to say that a person's worth isn't measured by what they have. It's measured by what they do when someone needs help. You needed help. Simple as that. 2 days later, Sirith's trial was going exceptionally well. Will Anders actually complimented her welding work. The crew, initially skeptical, admitted she knew her job. For the first time in cycles, Sirith felt hope. Then she returned to Roy's quarters and found him kneeling beside Pip. The youngling had a bruised eye, and Kessa was crying. Forge hid behind Roy, terrified. What happened? Sirith demanded. Roy's voice was cold, controlled. Some station thugs decided to send a message while we were out. Cornered the kids in the corridor. Did they? I got there fast. They ran. Roy looked at Pip's injury with barely contained rage. But they made their point. On the door behind them, someone had spray-painted words in harsh red. Dragon spawn, go home. Sirith felt something break inside her. Not despair this time. Anger. Pure, burning anger. Roy stood, his expression grim. I'm done playing nice. Time to show these people what happens when you threaten children. What are you going to do? First, find those thugs. Then, change some minds around here. He looked at Sirith. You with me? She showed her teeth. Always. Roy tracked the thugs to a gambling den in the station's lower levels. 3 humans, drunk and loud, bragging about teaching Dragonspawn a lesson. He didn't go in swinging. Violence would just get him arrested. Instead, he sat down at their table and started asking questions. Heard you boys like picking on kids. The biggest one, a man with scarred knuckles, sneered. Who's asking? The guy whose door you painted. The guy whose family you threatened. Roy kept his voice level. I want to know why. Dragons don't belong in human sectors. Simple. The man leaned back. Someone's got to keep standards. Roy noticed something interesting. The table had gambling chips worth thousands of credits. Illegal synthetic drugs sat half-hidden under a jacket. These weren't just thugs. They were criminals. Interesting operation you got here, Roy said casually, loud enough for nearby patrons to hear. All this wealth from honest work, I'm sure. The man's eyes narrowed. You threatening us? Nope. Just making conversation. Roy stood. But if I were running illegal gambling and drug distribution, I'd probably be more careful about who I picked fights with. Never know who might mention it to station security. The threat hung in the air. The men understood. Roy walked out without looking back. An hour later, station security raided the gambling den. Someone had tipped them off about illegal activities. The 3 thugs were arrested. Roy made sure word spread about why they'd been targeted. Touch Roy Bennett's people. Face consequences. The message worked. Nobody bothered the younglings again. But the housing problem remained. Station administration sent official notices. Dragons in human quarters violated codes. Roy had 1 week to resolve the situation or face eviction and fines. Sirith's trial period ended successfully. Will Anders offered her a permanent position with decent pay. But that didn't solve where she and the younglings would live. Dragon sector housing required deposits she didn't have. Human sector housing wouldn't accept dragons. Roy spent 2 sleepless nights working on an idea. Finally, he called a meeting at a neutral cantina. He invited 5 humans he trusted and asked Sirith to bring other dragons who might listen. 3 dragon families showed up. They were cautious, suspicious. Dragons learned not to trust gatherings. An elderly dragon named Grath spoke for the group. Why are we here, human? Because we all got the same problem, Roy said. Housing on this station is broken. Humans can't afford decent places. Dragons can't get approved for anything. Meanwhile, there's unused space everywhere. And Grath's eyes were tired. And I'm proposing something different. A cooperative. Humans and dragons pooling resources, sharing space, supporting each other. We petitioned the station for that abandoned cargo bay in Section 12. We convert together. We live together. Silence. Then someone laughed. A human worker named Beth shook her head. You can't be serious. Humans and dragons? That's never been done. Maybe it should be, Roy countered. Look at what Sirith and I proved. We work well together. Her skills plus human know-how. Why not expand that? The administration will never approve. Another human said. Roy smiled coldly. The administration has been violating safety codes in worker housing for 3 years. I've documented everything. They approve our cooperative, or I send my documentation to the Galactic Labor Board. Their choice. Grath studied Roy for a long moment. You would threaten your own kind for dragons? I'd threaten corrupt officials for anyone being exploited. Dragon, human, doesn't matter. The meeting lasted hours. Arguments, concerns, fears. But slowly, people started listening. Beth mentioned her recent eviction. A dragon named Tessa talked about her daughter's lack of educational access. The problems were universal. Maybe the solution could be 2. By the end, 8 families agreed to try. 5 human, 3 dragon. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The petition to station administration met immediate resistance. The administrator, a slick Centaurian named Voss, dismissed it outright. Interspecies housing? Absolutely not. The legal complications alone. Roy placed a datapad on Voss's desk. That's my documentation of code violations in current worker housing. Structural failures, ventilation problems, illegal overcrowding. Some of these violations could result in criminal charges. Voss's expression hardened. You're blackmailing me. I am negotiating. You approve our cooperative, these documents stay private. You refuse, they go public. Roy leaned forward. Your call. 3 days later, approval came through. The cooperative could use the abandoned cargo bay, with strict conditions and regular inspections. Roy didn't care about the conditions. They had their space. The real work began. Converting a cargo bay into livable housing took skills, materials, and coordination. Dragons provided strength and technical abilities. Humans offered organizational experience and legal knowledge. Roy found himself leading the project, organizing work crews, solving problems. Sirith emerged as another leader, especially among the dragons. She translated Roy's plans into practical action. When disputes arose between species, she and Roy mediated together. They made a good team. The younglings thrived during construction. Pip helped with electrical systems, showing natural engineering talent. Kessa sang while people worked, her voice somehow making the labor easier. Forge appointed himself official tool carrier, following Roy everywhere. One evening. During a break, Grath approached Roy. I was wrong about you. How's that? I thought you were just another human with a savior complex. But you're not trying to save us. You're trying to build something with us. There's a difference. Roy shrugged. Just seems like common sense. We're stronger together. Common sense isn't common. Grath gestured to the busy work site. You've given us something we haven't had in years. Hope. Not everything went smoothly. Anonymous threats appeared. Equipment got sabotaged. Someone spread rumors that the cooperative was a front for illegal activities. Roy dealt with each problem patiently, documenting everything, building alliances with sympathetic station residents. During construction, something happened to Roy. The emptiness that had haunted him for years started filling. Every morning, he woke with purpose. Every night, he fell asleep satisfied. The younglings called him Roy Father now. Sirith had become his closest friend. The cooperative members treated him like family. One night, Sirith found him alone, reviewing construction plans. She sat down beside him. Will Anders offer me a promotion? Chief engineer on his main freight ship. 3-year contract, deep space routes. The pay's triple what I'm making now. Roy's heart sank, but he kept his voice steady. That's amazing. You should take it. It means leaving the station, leaving the younglings in someone else's care for months at a time. She looked at him. I don't know if I can do that. Sirith, this is your chance. Financial security, career advancement. Everything you and Gareth dreamed about. And what about them? She gestured toward the quarters where the younglings slept. What about you? This cooperative needs leadership. The cooperative will survive. Your younglings need you. They need security more than they need me hovering. She sighed. But I can't take them on a freight ship. And I can't leave them alone. Roy understood what she wasn't saying. The impossible choice between opportunity and motherhood. Between building their future and being present for them. An idea formed. Crazy, impractical, but possible. What if you didn't have to choose? What do you mean? What if I stayed? Watch the younglings while you work the freight routes. You come back between contracts. They get stability, and you get your career. Sirith stared at him. Roy, that's insane. You give up everything to raise my younglings. What am I giving up? I've got no family, no real career. But them. He smiled. They already call me Roy Father. Might as well make it official. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. Roy met her eyes. You gave me something, Sirith. Purpose. Family. Let me give something back. Sirith's eyes shone with unshed tears. Why would you do this? Roy thought about his mother, about colony values, about the kind of man he wanted to be. Because it's right. Because those kids deserve every chance. Because you deserve to chase your dreams without guilt. He paused. And because maybe I need them as much as they need me. The cooperative housing finished 3 weeks later. 30 families moved in. The celebration feast mixed human and dragon traditions. Music, food, laughter. Roy watched his community together and felt something he hadn't felt in years, that he felt home. The first month after Sirith left was harder than Roy expected. Little Forge cried every night, asking when his mother would come back. Kessa stopped singing. Pip threw himself in his schoolwork with desperate intensity, like grades could fill the emptiness. Roy learned dragon parenting through trial and error. Dragon younglings needed higher temperatures than humans, so he adjusted their room's climate. Their diet required specific minerals, which he sourced from the station market. Bedtime rituals involved fire songs that Roy couldn't sing, but could hum along to. You're doing it wrong, Pip said one night after Roy's third attempt at a traditional lullaby. Yeah, I know. Roy sat on the edge of their sleeping platform. Your mom's better at this stuff. She's not coming back, is she? Kessa's voice was small. What? No, she's coming back. 2 more months. Roy pulled up Sirith's last message on his datapad. See? She sent this yesterday. The message showed Sirith in the freight ship's engine room, scales shining with pride. Tell my younglings I love them. Tell Roy he's doing great, even if he doesn't believe it. Forge crawled into Roy's lap. Miss Mama. I know, buddy. But she's working hard so you can have good things. Education, proper food, a real future. Roy hugged the small dragon. And I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Forge asked. Promise. The cooperative kept Roy busy. Disputes needed mediation. Maintenance required coordination. New families wanted to join, which meant expansion planning. Roy found himself becoming the unofficial leader, though he never asked for the role. Grath became his advisor, teaching him dragon customs and cultural sensitivities. Beth handled human bureaucracy. Together, they made the cooperative work. One afternoon, a journalist arrived at the station. She was a young human woman named Sarah Wells, working for a galactic news network. Someone had tipped her off about the cooperative. This is remarkable, Sarah said, recording footage of humans and dragons working side by side. How did this start? Roy felt uncomfortable onto the camera. Just people helping people. But the interspecies aspect, that's unprecedented on frontier stations. Shouldn't be. We all got the same needs. Safety, shelter, community. Roy shrugged. Species shouldn't matter. Sarah interviewed cooperative members. A human engineer talked about learning dragon welding techniques. A dragon teacher described the mixed species youth programs. Younglings played together in common areas. No distinctions between human and dragon children. The footage went viral across the galactic network. Suddenly, Station Greymore's cooperative became news. Other stations inquired about the model. Political representatives visited. Academic researchers wanted to study the community. Roy hated the attention. He just wanted to raise the younglings and help his neighbors. But the visibility had benefits. The station administration backed off completely. Mining companies improved dragon working conditions, afraid of bad publicity. Other marginalized species reached out, asking to join the cooperative. 4 months after Sirith left, she returned. The docking bay reunion made Roy's chest tight. The younglings mobbed their mother, scales and tears mixing together. Sirith held them like she'd never let go. Later, in the cooperative's common area, Sirith pulled Roy aside. You've done amazing work. They're thriving. Had some rough patches. Roy showed her Pip's school reports, all perfect marks. Kessa's performance in the youth choir. Forge's improved vocabulary. But yeah, we managed. Roy, I saw the news coverage. The cooperative is famous now. You're famous. He grimaced. Didn't ask for that. But you've created something important. This model could change how species interact across the galaxy. She paused. I earned enough this contract to secure our future. I could stay now, take a station job, be with my younglings. That what you want? Sirith looked conflicted. I don't know. The freight work is fulfilling. Will Anders offered me chief engineer position permanently. But my younglings are doing fine. Better than fine. Roy leaned against the wall. You don't have to choose between being a mother and having a career. That's the whole point of what we built here. Community supports each other. It's not fair to you. Life's not fair. But we make it work anyway. Roy smiled. Take the job, Sirith. Chase your dreams. The younglings will be here, loved and safe. I guarantee it. Tears streaked down Sirith's face. How do I thank you? You already did. You gave me a family. Now let me take care of them. Over her 2-month stay, Sirith integrated back into the younglings' lives. But Roy noticed something. They'd adapted. They loved their mother fiercely, but they'd also bonded with Roy. Forge called them both parent. Pip sought advice from Roy about school and Sirith about engineering. Kessa sang human songs for Roy and dragon songs for Sirith. They'd become a real family. Unconventional but functional. One evening, the cooperative held a community meeting. New challenges had emerged. A mining company wanted to recruit cooperative dragons for dangerous work. Some human families faced discrimination from non-cooperative station residents. Resources were stretched thin as membership grew. Roy addressed the group. We've proven something important. Different species can work together. But that's just the start. Now we need to prove we can sustain it, grow it, protect it. How? Someone asked. By staying true to our values. We don't abandon people. We don't turn away those who need help. We stand together against anyone trying to divide us. Roy looked around the room. This cooperative isn't just housing. It's a statement. It's proof that the galaxy's old divisions are meaningless. Grath stood. The human speaks truth. My people have known isolation for generations. Here, we know community. This is worth fighting for. Beth raised her hand. I propose we formalize our structure. Create official leadership, bylaws, long-term planning. If we're going to be a model for other stations, we need to be organized. The proposal passed. Roy found himself elected primary coordinator, with Grath and Beth as co-leaders. Sirith was named chief technical advisor, a position she could fulfill remotely during freight contracts. After the meeting, Pip approached Roy nervously. Can I ask you something? Always. I got accepted to the Advanced Engineering Academy. It's on a different station. Full scholarship. Pip looked torn. But that means leaving you and Mama and the cooperative. Roy's heart swelled with pride and pain. That's incredible, Pip. I don't know if I should go. The family needs me here. The family needs you to chase your potential. Roy put a hand on Pip's shoulder. Your dad dreamed of opportunities like this. Don't waste them because you're scared. What if I fail? Then you learn and try again. That's how life works. Roy smiled. But you won't fail. You're brilliant, hardworking, and raised by the stubbornest dragon widow in the galaxy and a human too dumb to know when to quit. Pip laughed. Will you and Mama be okay? We'll be fine. Kessa and Forge still need raising. The cooperative still needs work. And you'll come visit between terms. Roy hugged the young dragon. We're not losing you. We're launching you. That night, Roy stood on the cooperative's observation deck, watching ships come and go through the docking bay. Sirith joined him. Pip told me about the academy. Yeah, our eldest, off to change the world. Sirith's voice held pride and sadness. Gareth will be proud. You should be proud too. You survived impossible circumstances and gave your younglings a future. We gave them a future. Together. Sirith looked at Roy. You know what's funny? When I first asked you for help, I never imagined this. A family, a community, a purpose. Makes two of us. Roy watched a freight ship depart. Think we can keep it going? With you leading? Absolutely. Sirith bumped his shoulder gently. You've got the heart of a clutch guardian. That's the highest honor in dragon culture. What's that mean? It means you protect younglings that aren't yours by blood. You raise them with the same devotion as biological parents. It's rare, even among dragons. She paused. Gareth would have liked you. Would have liked him too, I think. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Behind them, the cooperative hummed with life. Younglings playing, adults talking, different species existing in harmony. It wasn't perfect. Problems remained. But it worked, and that was enough. 2 years changed everything. Pip excelled at the engineering academy, sending regular messages home filled with excitement about courses and projects. Kessa performed in a traveling youth choir, her voice carrying dragon and human melodies to dozens of stations. Forge, now bigger and more confident, attended primary school where he tutored younger students in mathematics. Roy watched them grow with pride and terror. Pride because they exceeded every expectation. Terror because he knew letting go was part of parenting. The cooperative expanded to house 80 families across 3 converted cargo bays. Other stations built similar models, citing Station Greymore as inspiration. Roy received requests for consultation, speaking engagements, leadership advice. He declined most, preferring to focus on his community. Sirith's freight career flourished. She became Anders' most valuable engineer, solving problems other technicians couldn't. Her 4-month contracts brought steady income that she split between savings and cooperative improvements. The younglings understood her absences now, proud of their mother's accomplishments. During one of her returns, Sirith found Roy in the cooperative workshop, repairing furniture with Forge's help. "Teaching him your trade?" she asked. "Teaching him that fixing things is better than replacing them." Roy guided Forge's small claws and sanding would smooth, both in furniture and relationships. Forge looked up at his mother. "Roy, father, says everything deserves a second chance. Does he now?" Sirith smiled. "Even broken things can be useful again," Forge said seriously. "You just need patience and the right tools." After Forge ran off to play, Sirith sat beside Roy. "He sounds like you. Hope that's good." "It is." She watched Roy work. "I've been thinking about something. Will offer to make me a partner in his freight company. It means more responsibility, better profit share, but also more time away." Roy's hand stilled. "What do you want to do?" "I want both. Career and family. But that feels selfish." "It's not selfish. It's human." Roy caught himself. "Well, you know what I mean. It's natural. Is it fair to you, though? You put your life on hold to raise my younglings. Don't you want your own future?" Roy considered that. Did he want something different? A career, a partner, a life beyond the cooperative? "This is my future," he said finally. "The younglings, the community. It's not second best. It's exactly where I want to be." "But Sirith, stop. Take the partnership. Build your empire. The younglings will be fine. I'll be fine. We're family. Family supports each other's dreams." She hugged him suddenly, scales warm against his skin. "Thank you." The next day brought unexpected visitors. A delegation from the Galactic Unity Council, the closest thing to central government in the scattered colonies. They wanted to study the cooperative as a potential model for interspecies integration programs. Roy reluctantly agreed to host them. The delegation included representatives from a dozen species, all curious about how humans and dragons coexisted so peacefully. One delegate, an elderly insectoid named Churik, asked pointed questions. "How do you handle cultural conflicts?" "By talking. We have weekly forums where anyone can raise concerns." Roy showed them the common areas where species mixed freely. "When issues come up, we address them as a community. In economic integration, everyone contributes what they can. We pool resources for shared needs. Individual families keep personal earnings but invest in collective infrastructure." Beth joined the explanation, detailing the financial structures. "What about younglings?" another delegate asked. "How do you prevent cultural erosion?" Grath answered that one. "We teach all younglings about all cultures. Human children learn dragon history. Dragon children learn human traditions. They grow up understanding difference, not fearing it." The delegation watched Forge playing with human children, no distinction between them. They observed mixed species work crews, families sharing meals, teenagers studying together. "Remarkable," Churik said. This shouldn't work by conventional sociological models. Maybe the models are wrong, Roy suggested. Maybe beings are more adaptable than we give them credit for. That evening, Chirk approached Roy privately. I was skeptical when we arrived. Interspecies integration usually fails due to cultural rigidity and resource competition. But you've created something different here. Not me. We. Everyone here built this together. But you provided the initial vision, the willingness to cross boundaries. Chirk's compound eyes studied Roy. Why? What made you different? Roy thought about his mother, his colony, the values beaten into him through hardship. I'm not different. I just remembered something most people forget. We're all just trying to survive, protect those we love, find meaning. Species doesn't change that basic truth. Profound simplicity. Chirk clicked approval. The council wants to fund expansion. Turn your cooperative into a prototype. Train leaders from other stations. I don't know about that. Think about it. Your model could reshape galactic society. After the delegation left, Roy felt overwhelmed. He'd never wanted to reshape society. He just wanted to help a starving dragon family. Sirith found him that night on the observation deck, his usual thinking spot. Heard about the council's offer. Yeah. What are you going to do? Why always do? What feels right? Roy sighed. But I don't know what that is anymore. This was supposed to be simple. Help you and the younglings. Instead, it became this huge thing. Maybe it was always supposed to be huge. Maybe you were just the catalyst. Sirith stood beside him. You changed my life, Roy. You saved my younglings. You build a community that proves different species can work together. That's not simple. That's extraordinary. I just did what anyone should do. But most don't. That's what makes it matter. She paused. The council's right. This model needs to spread. And you're the one who can make it happen. What about the younglings? The community here, the younglings are growing up. Pip's basically independent. Kessa travels constantly. Forge is in school most days. Sirith smiled sadly. You did your job too well. They don't need constant supervision anymore. Roy knew she was right, but the knowledge hurt. I'm not ready to let them go. You're not letting go. You're allowing them to grow. Sirith took his hand. And maybe it's time for you to grow too. Beyond this station. Into whatever comes next. A month later, disaster struck. A major fire in the cooperative's second bay, started by faulty wiring. 2 families lost everything. Several dragons suffered smoke injuries. The damage was extensive. Roy coordinated the response with calm efficiency. Emergency housing, medical care, salvage operations. The community pulled together, sharing resources with affected families, but the fire revealed problems. The cooperative had grown too fast. Infrastructure couldn't keep up. Safety systems were inadequate. They'd been lucky the casualties weren't worse. During recovery, Roy called an emergency meeting. We messed up, grew too fast, cut corners, ignored warnings. That's on me as leader. It was an accident. Someone protested. An accident we should have prevented. Roy looked around the room. We need help. Professional help. Engineers, safety experts, proper management. We can't keep running on good intentions and luck. The council's offer suddenly made sense. They didn't just want to study the cooperative. They wanted to provide resources, expertise, support. They wanted to help it succeed. Roy accepted the council's partnership with conditions. The cooperative maintained autonomy. Local leadership made decisions. Outside experts advised but didn't control. Over the next months, specialists arrived. They redesigned safety systems, improved infrastructure, trained local leaders. The cooperative transformed from scrappy experiment to stable institution. Pip returned home to help with engineering upgrades. Now a qualified technician, they brought advanced knowledge and youthful energy. Working alongside Roy felt different, more like colleagues than parent and child. You did good, Roy father, Pip said one day. Asking for help. That takes strength. Took a fire to teach me the lesson. Better late than never. Pip adjusted a power relay. You know what's funny? When Mama first brought us here, I thought we were doomed. Dragons didn't get second chances. But you gave us one. And now look at us. Roy looked at Pip, grown and confident. At Kessa, performing for crowds. At Forge, excelling in school. At Sirith, thriving in her career. At the cooperative, transformed from desperate gamble to lasting institution. Maybe Sirith was right. Maybe he'd been a catalyst for something bigger. And maybe that meant his role was evolving, not ending. Yeah, Roy said softly. Look at us. 5 years after Roy met Sirith in that dingy cantina, he stood on the observation deck watching a familiar scene unfold. A desperate alien family, their species unfamiliar to most station residents, huddled in the marketplace. Their clothing was tattered, their bodies thin. Station residents walked past, avoiding eye contact. Before Roy could move, he saw Forge approach them. Now a teenager, Forge moved with confidence Roy remembered teaching him years ago. The young dragon spoke quietly to the alien family, then led them toward the cooperative's dining hall. Pip appeared beside Roy. Home on break from graduate school, they'd grown into a respected engineer. Remember when that was us? Every day, Roy said, in the dining hall. Forge served the alien family food while Kessa, between tour stops, sang softly to calm their frightened younglings. The cooperative members welcomed the strangers without question. This was normal now. This was what they did. Sirith joined Roy and Pip, her scales gleaming with health and success. She'd become a partner in the freight company, earning more than she'd ever dreamed. But she always came home. They're doing it without us, she said quietly. That's the point, isn't it? Roy watched Forge explain cooperative membership to the alien family. We raised them to be better than us. Later that evening, the entire cooperative gathered for a community celebration. 5 years of existence, 80 families, 0 major conflicts. Other stations had successfully replicated the model. Galactic integration programs cited them as proof that interspecies cooperation worked. Chirk from a Unity Council attended, bringing news. The council voted to fund cooperative development on 20 news stations. Your model is now official policy. Roy felt strange hearing that. His simple act of sharing food had become galactic policy. Beth stood to give a speech. 5 years ago, most of us were desperate, isolated, struggling. Then Roy Bennett did something radical. He helped someone who didn't look like him. He built bridges instead of walls. And he showed us that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. The crowd applauded. Roy squirmed under the attention. He'd never want to be a symbol or a leader. He just wanted to help. Grath raised his glass. To Roy Bennett, the human with a dragon's heart. To Roy, the crowd echoed. After the speeches, Roy escaped to his quiet spot on the observation deck. The stars looked the same as they had 5 years ago, but everything else had changed. Footsteps behind him. Forge, now almost adult-sized, sat down beside him. You okay, Roy, father? Just thinking about how strange life is. 5 years ago, I was counting my last credits. No purpose, no family, no hope. Now look at all this. You gave us everything. Forge said simply. You gave me just as much. Purpose, family, meaning. Roy smiled at the young dragon. What are you going to do after school? You've got the grades for any career. Forge was quiet for a moment. I want to start more cooperatives. Go to stations that need them. Help build communities like ours. I figure if one human cowboy can change things, maybe one dragon can too. Pride swelled in Roy's chest. Your parents would be proud. Both of them. All 3 of them. Forge corrected. Mama, father, and you. Pip and Kessa joined them, followed by Sirith. The family together, watching ships come and go. I got offered a position, Pip announced. Chief engineer for a major station. It's prestigious, high-paying, everything I work for. That's amazing, Roy said. It's also boring, Pip admitted. I'd rather work on cooperative development with Forge. Building communities, solving real problems, helping people. Kessa nodded. My choir manager wants me to go commercial. Big tours, major money. But I've been thinking about music therapy instead. Using songs to help traumatized younglings, especially refugees and orphans. Roy looked at these 3 dragons he'd helped raise. They could have chased money and prestige. Instead, they chose service and community. They'd learned the lessons he'd tried to teach. You 3 are going to change the galaxy, he said. We learn from the best. Pip said. Sirith put her hand on Roy's shoulder. They're right. You taught them that success isn't about what you accumulate. It's about what you give. Later, alone with Sirith, Roy admitted his fears. What if I got it wrong? What if I taught them to sacrifice too much? You taught them to care. That's never wrong. Sirith looked at the cooperative, lit up against the dark station walls. You know what the galaxy needed? Someone to prove that compassion isn't weakness. That helping others doesn't make you a fool. You did that. We did that. Together. Together, she agreed that a message arrived on Roy's datapad. The Unity Council wanted him to lead cooperative development across the frontier. It meant travel, responsibility, influence. Everything he'd never wanted. But it also meant spreading what worked here. Helping more families like Sirith's had been. Creating more communities where species didn't matter. I don't know if I'm the right person for this, Roy said. You're the only person for this. You got the experience, the values, the heart. Sirith smiled. And you won't be alone. The younglings want to help. I can coordinate logistics during freight runs. We'll do it as a family. Family. That word still caught Roy off guard sometimes. He'd lost his biological family years ago. Never thought he'd find another. But here they were. A human cowboy and a dragon widow and 3 younglings who'd become adults. Unconventional, impossible, perfect. The next morning, Roy accepted the council position. Within weeks, he was traveling to struggling stations, meeting desperate families, building new cooperatives. Forge and Pip worked beside him. Kessie used music to bridge cultural gaps. Sirith managed logistics and technical problems. They became known across the frontier. The family that proved different species could work together. The team that built communities from nothing. On one station, Roy met a human drifter counting his last credits in a cantina. The man looked lost, empty, familiar. You looking for work? Roy asked. Looking for anything, the man admitted. Got a project that needs help. Building a cooperative for refugees. It's hard work, no glory, probably won't pay much. Roy smiled. But it matters. Why would you need me? Don't even know me. Don't need to. You're here. You're willing. That's enough. Roy extended his hand. I'm Roy. Let me buy you a meal and tell you about what we're doing. As Roy shared food with another stranger, Sirith watched from across the cantina. Pip and Forge were setting up meeting spaces. Kessa was introducing herself to local families. The cycle continued. One act of compassion rippling outward, touching lives, changing systems, reshaping societies. That night, Forge asked Roy the question he'd asked years ago. Tell the story again. About the day you met Mama. Roy looked around the room. Dozens of families, multiple species, all living together peacefully. He thought about all the cooperatives now existing across the galaxy. All the families helped. All the younglings saved. Well, he began, it was just a regular day until this dragon widow whispered to me. The room quieted. Everyone knew this story, but they never tired of hearing it. Because it wasn't just Roy's story or Sirith's story. It was everyone's story. The story of how walls fall when people choose to see each other. The story of how the smallest acts create the greatest changes. We haven't eaten in days, she said. Roy looked at Sirith, at their younglings, at the community they'd built together. So I did what anyone should do. I helped. And everything changed. The galaxy was vast and often cruel. Species competed for resources. Prejudice ran deep. Survival meant fighting for yourself. But in a dingy cantina on Station Greymore, a human cowboy had made a different choice. He'd given more than food. He'd given dignity, hope, family, and love. And that choice echoed across the stars, proving that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or warfare or conquest. IT was the simple, revolutionary act of giving a damn about others. And no matter what they looked like, and no matter where they came from, and no matter how different they seemed, in the end, compassion was the most powerful force in the galaxy. And it started with one human cowboy who refused to let people starve. The rest was just details.